I thought I'd do a couple reviews. I'm home from school, so this is that outfit. The first one I'm gonna do is Hector and the Search for Happiness by Francois Lelourd, I think. This is a ARC copy. I didn't get it as an ARC because it came out like 4 years ago, but I did get it for free and it's the ARC copy, so that's what happened. The idea of this book is there's this young psychiatrist, Hector, and he is living in quite a well-off city. He is doing quite well within his job. He's got lots of patients, but very little of his time is spent treating those with specific problems. A lot of it is more that they're just unhappy or unsatisfied with their life, and this is getting him down a bit. One of his patients tells him he looks tired and worn out and should go on holiday, and he decides that's a good idea, but rather than just taking some time off, he is going to, wherever he goes, find out what makes people happy there, and so then he can apply that and become a better psychiatrist. I thought that sounded like a really interesting premise. I find happiness a really interesting concept. I was drawn in by that. Yeah, a lot of my friends do psychology and that stuff. I find it quite interesting, but particularly things about emotions and how people feel and how people interact. Anyway, as he goes, he collects a list of all the things that he noticed that make people happy. He goes to various different countries, and it's about his discoveries that he makes during this time, and it's a really short book. It's 100 pages, I think, and it's just super thin. My overall feelings about this book are quite mixed because the concept sounded really interesting and I really wanted to love this book, especially when I read the first 2 chapters, and the chapters are so short. They're really snappy, which makes you get through the book really quickly, and I really liked that feature of the book. So when I read the first couple of chapters, I really liked the writing style in this case. It is an adult's book as far as I'm aware. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, but it is written in quite a child-friendly manner, which is really unusual. I hadn't come across, but it was written in such a way that I didn't find it, well, I found it a little bit patronising. Most of the time I didn't find it patronising, only when there was the overuse of repetition, but other than that I thought it was really a nice way to approach this kind of topic. Because it's fiction rather than a non-fiction study, it could have easily not worked, but it did work here. So that was one thing I did like, the writing. But as I said, it did overuse repetition a little bit. When they went to China, they said, oh, I keep seeing all these Chinese people, and there are Chinese people serving me, and there are Chinese people walking on the roads. If you're in China, that's going to happen. Later in the book, it recognised that it was doing that. I thought it was really interesting to have a younger voice bringing you the story. It's a really short book, so it didn't take long at all to read, and the short chapters really help move you through the book. The actual plot, there was some quite surprising bits with some plot twists and that kind of thing. As a book covering someone's journey, the plot mainly revolved around the different countries that he was going to and what happened in each specific destination, so that was what kind of was driving the plot, and I thought that worked quite well. Character wise, I thought Hector, I really liked him at first, and then I didn't like him so much as I continued. I think I thought the book was going to be slightly different when I started, with the kind of cute writing style, and then it wasn't quite what I was thinking it was going to be. For someone who is a psychiatrist, he seemed quite oblivious sometimes to his actions and their ramifications, or just seemed to not really think through what he was doing. He kind of annoyed me a little bit more as the book continued. Particularly, I didn't really like his relationships with women. In the city where he lives, he's in a relationship with someone, but pretty much everywhere he goes, he ends up having a relationship with a woman there. And also just all the time he will be talking about how pretty and young these women are that he sees, and he seems to really notice that, and I just thought it was a bit weird. I didn't really like reading a character like that. That affected my reading of it. It seemed Like, he didn't really care what he did and what it meant. He would think, oh, I've done that and that's really bad, but he never would consider things before he did them. That was a big flaw in his character, and I get that characters and people have flaws, but that came through a lot, especially as you continued through the book. It kept coming through. And okay, so one of the relationships was kind of important, and it seems like it was more than just a temporary thing. He had feelings, and it did make him realise some things about happiness, but overall I just thought it was kind of unnecessary and it wasn't needed. But maybe that was just to show us that he does have flaws or that kind of stuff. I feel like I could have enjoyed it more if that wasn't in there, and then maybe it could have lived up to what I felt it could be, because I really wanted to love this book. I did like the other aspects of the book and the actual list that he collects of things that make people happy, and I really liked the interactions with the monk that he meets. A lot of the book was very good, but just aspects of it brought it down, so I think I gave it a 3 on Goodreads out of 5. But it was interesting, and so despite the annoying bits, I would recommend it from the perspective of someone who's interested in happiness and those kind of matters. It was quite an interesting reading experience, marrying those two, my kind of love for books and fiction and getting into characters, and also thinking about happiness and that kind of thing. I like the word interesting, but I don't know what else to say. So that was my review for Hector and the Search for Happiness. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see ya. Bye!